Welcome back to Albany County Fasteners, Fasteners 101. I'm Bob, and today I'm going to show you how to prep, prime, and paint this garage foundation wall in my garage. But before we get started, please subscribe, like, and share my videos. Leave me a comment. If you have questions, more than happy to answer them. And hit the bell so we can tell you when we have new content. Let's get started. This wall is pretty clean. We have some spackle here, and there's several ways that you remove this spackle. You can just take a hammer like this, and you can just hit it and scrape it off. Most of this area is all clean. We have some over spackle here. So in this situation, when you have this, you want to take a knife and you want to score this area so you don't start cracking the corner bead and everything else. So you just clean off the area. There you go. See? Right below there, they have the corner bead. I'll take care of that later. You can see it's here. So they didn't trim the corner bead off the end. They should have snipped that with the snips. And that's why you have that there. But I'll take the snips and I'll snip that off. But that's good. There should be no grease or oils on your foundation. If you have like a chalk line mark, that's fine. Anything like this, you can use a screwdriver or a scraper and just scrape it off so it's not under your paint. I happen to have a screwdriver here right now. So it looks good. Any dust, you're gonna wanna take this dust off of here. You're painting that. This dust here, you want to clean that off. Yeah, a scraper would be better, but unfortunately, I don't have one here. I thought I did, and I don't. And it's at my office. That'll be it. So one of the things you're going to want to do before you get started is clean up around where you have to edge. Okay, so you see this debris. If you're edging or rolling and your roller goes too far, it could hit that debris and then put it on the wall. So you want to make sure that you clean this stuff up. Take a broom. There wasn't any chance of the debris getting into the brush or the roller. So I have here what I'm going to need to do this this project. Basically, I have a roller pan. I have some roller liners. I bought a pack of 5 because there'll be different applications. So I'm going to throw some of this out. I have some mixing sticks. I have a couple of rollers. That is the paint for the staircase, which is right over there. I have a brush container so I can walk around and do the edging. Also paint the stair because I can very little of that stair will get rolled. I have a 2.5 inch brush here, XL 2.5. I have, let's see here, this is the primer that I'm going to put on the concrete wall first. And this is Sherwin-Williams and an exterior acrylic latex. These are both latex based paints. Pair of gloves. This is the roller, screwdriver, and a hammer. Hammer's basically put the top back on. You're going to want to get a towel, put it over, so when you hit the can, the top of the can, it doesn't splat all over the place. Also, wear shitty clothes. You want to wear clothes that basically you're going to be throwing out or use for another project, because you will get paint on them. So I'm going to open these cans up and I'm going to start to apply the edging with the paintbrush, and let's get that rolling. So I have here a can of my primer, which is just white paint primer. I'm going to take a stick and I'm just going to check it, see if there's any lumps, anything that doesn't look right. And if you want to thin this out a little bit, you can. When you're doing trim first, I recommend you don't thin it out. You may want to thin it a little bit with a little bit of water when we start rolling. And you'll find primer is a little more pasty. And you can work out of this can if you like to. That's up to you. I prefer to walk around with that other smaller one. It's a little easier to work with. And you want to go heavy when you're trimming because concrete has all these pores. That you're trying to fill. And the idea of trimming is so when you're rolling, you don't hit the similar surfaces, which in this case would be drywall, and you really don't want to make your white wall gray, because that's the color I'm going to end up here with when I'm all done. If you tap a little bit like I'm doing here, it fills those holes that you have in concrete. I like to give myself extra room, totally up to you. But basically a good length is the length of this brush, which is about 2.5 inches that you want from the top down, and a little bit more always works better. You never want to overfill your brush, especially if you're going to thin out your paint, because then it'll drip. And we're trying to get a nice coat on here. This is, again, a primer. It's not a finished coat. This is just to stop the absorption of the paint when you put the paint on. All right, that side's trimmed out. Now I'm going to carry around with the other areas and work my way around. So I have a little water here. I'm just going to pour in there a little bit. And I'm going to mix this up now, thin it out a little bit here. And when you do that, you're going to make sure you mix it very well, that you're getting the water into the paint, that you don't have some of it watery and the other portion of it and if you let it drip like I just showed you, that you can see a consistency instead of a globbing dropping. You can see a steady flow, which is a nice consistency when you're going to be rolling the paint. Always make sure you scrape the bottom of the paint can. There's a lot of pigments settle down there with paint, and this will clean it up. Keep the plastic bag that the roller comes with, because we're going to put the roller back in it when we're done. So don't try to rip it off. Open it up on the end like this here. Okay, just open up the end, slide it off. Keep the bag. Don't lay your roller on the ground. I'm going to pour some paint in here. I'm going to roll on now. Okay, bring it back a little bit. I'll use the brush to clean up any drips so it don't go all over the place. Like see there. Clean that up. You don't want to dry the roller out too much. You want to keep a nice layer on it. This is just a sealer. basically pouring the rest of the paint back into the can because I'm done for today. We'll let this dry overnight, and then tomorrow we'll come back again and hit this. As that's happening, I'm going to show you now how to save your roller. So you do not need to buy another one or use another one. So basically you're going to take your roller and you're going to slide the plastic bag over it. Yeah, it's a little messy, but no need to buy another roller. You use this roller tomorrow to continue rolling the other side. Now you will get some paint, and then just take it and wrap it around that so it's closed and stays closed like that. And that's it. And you just leave it like that overnight. And now I'm just going to close this top. But before I do that, I'm going to take some paper towel or a rag and just place it over the top like this before I knock this lid on so it doesn't splat all over the place. And that basically prevents it. And you can wipe down the can, clean it up a little bit. And that's it. Throw this out. And I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so I'm back the next day. And my primer is all dry. You'll see here that I did some masking along the drywall because now I'm going to apply the gray paint over the sealer that I put on the concrete wall. So let's get started with the gray paint on the wall. First thing I'm going to do is trim out the wall with the gray paint again, and then we're going to roll it. So this is my gray paint. I'm going to open it and open a can. Instead of doing this, turn it. Turn the screwdriver as you go around. It's more effective. And that's the gray I'm going to be using. And when it dries, it'll dry darker. I'm going to mix it. And the finished paint will spread easier now that the sealer is on the concrete. It'll go on a lot easier than the primer went on there. The primer is like a sealer. Okay. This is pretty well mixed. I don't see any different colors. If there was pigment on the bottom of the can, you would see it down at the bottom of the stick. I don't see it, so this is pretty well mixed. Let's get trimming. See how this is going pretty quickly now. The primer that's on that wall seals the concrete, and now this job becomes so much easier. But I think I'm going to do 2 coats. Not required in the trimming part, but on the rolling part, I'm probably going to do 2 coats. We'll see how the first coat goes on and how it seals uniformity of the paint on the wall. Get to see how it looks. Always do the corners, because you can't get in there with the roller. Always a generous coat. Don't try and get it out and stretch the paint, because you will see it in the end. Okay, moving around the other side now. So now you can see that I mask tape all this. I'm just pushing down the bottom part to make sure that the tape is down on the bottom part of it, because that's where I would possibly get some paint on the wall. And because these colors are different, I want to make sure that there's no paint getting on the white walls, because these walls are staying the color they are. And you always do the trim before you do the rolling. If you do it the opposite way, you're going to see how you trimmed it out when it dries. So don't roll first until you trim out the area like I'm doing here. Okay, so you can see I trimmed everything out with the gray paint. I filled my rolling pan with paint, and now we're going to start to roll. When you trim out your walls, there's no need to wait for this to dry. You can start painting right away. I'm going to put a nice coat of paint on here. This will be the first coat. We're going to see how that applies. If it needs another coat, then we'll roll on another one. And it's good to go back after you put a bunch of paint on so you don't get glopping or it glops up on the surface. See how those voids really blend in with this color paint. With the white, it sticks out, but with the gray, it kind of starts to hide in there. If you're doing a corner like this, don't do it with the metal part, because you hit the wall, like I just did. Do it the opposite direction, so the metal part is out, away from the wall, and you don't hit it. You'll see the wall that is finished. Got stuff in front of it now. I got to move it all around. This is all stuff that has to get put away, but you can see how nice this came out.